Good morning, good morning. We are on Facebook Live. Just making sure. Okay. We are all settled in. Thank you for joining us. This is our third day of our first series, Understanding Trauma. If you have not watched day 1 or day 2, you could view them on our Facebook page. If you are joining from Meetup, that link is in the discussions to be able to connect to the Facebook page of the Healers Roundtable. So you can view day 1 and day 2, just that first hour of information and our guest speakers. The second hour, we take it into a private Zoom session for questions to keep it much in a safe space for anyone wanting to ask about any personal trauma experiences. So those are not recorded and they are not for viewing. Only the first hour is for viewing with the information and our guest speakers sharing their story and their journey. So here is the schedule for today. We are doing our welcoming. We will be doing a meditation. And I will be introducing my husband today. My husband is the guest speaker. He'll be sharing his journey of trauma. And so that will be from 8:15 to 8:45. Then we will do a conclusion talking about the 4 steps of healing and transition from there to our private Zoom session where you will be able to ask any questions. We could give you any tools that you may be seeking and needing for to start healing your journey of trauma and understanding it. So with that, thank you all those who are watching on Facebook Live. I could see I have my phone to the side. That's why I keep looking to the side just to see who is on. So thank you for watching. We are Dual Dragons. My name is Rebecca and my husband,
JB Atkins, and we're holistic wellness consultants, also known as the Muscle Whisperer. And this is our contact information if you'd like to seek further information on how we do our work.
Yes. So with that, so what I want to do is we're going to do our meditation. I just really want to focus on that meditation. It's 8:05. I want everyone to take time because this is our day 3. And day 1 and day 2, we did this practice, but today I just want to take it a little slower pace and not rush through it. So everyone who is sitting or watching, sit in a comfortable spot. Sit, if you're sitting, sit up straight, feet flat on the floor. And I want you to place a hand on your heart and your other hand on your belly. And when you breathe, the only hand that should be moving is the one on the belly. So when you inhale, your belly will expand outwards. And when you exhale, your belly will go back to its regular position. So let's take a couple of deep breaths. Now, I want you to all start to scan your body. And by scanning, we will be starting at the feet. I want you to focus in any discomfort or anything that comes up. So as you're at your feet, You can move your toes a little bit just to feel the sensation of your feet. Now go to your ankles. How does your ankles feel today? As you're scanning, just make some self notes to yourself. And from your ankles, go up to the knees. How do your knees feel? From your knees, now go up to the hip. Pay attention to your hip now. How does that feel? From your hip, now we will start at the tailbone and work your way up vertebrae by vertebrae, slowly up the spine. Pay attention. How does your spine feel? And from your spine, go outwards onto your rib cage, towards the front, right at your sternum, located in front of your heart. How does your rib cage feel? How does it feel to breathe with your belly instead of your chest? Is it more comfortable? Is it tighter? From your sternum, I want you to work along the collarbone that connects to your shoulder. How do your shoulders feel today? And from your shoulders, I want you to go down to your elbow. From your elbow to your wrist. From your wrist to your hand. Move your fingers a bit. Your wrist. Turn it. How does that feel? From there, go back up your arm towards your neck. And now continue up your neck. How does your neck feel? And from the neck, now go down to your jawline. As you're breathing, as you swallow, as you move your jaw, open and close it. How does that feel? And then from there with your hands, I want you to wrap them around your skull. Do some little pressure on your skull. How does your skull feel today? As you take your self notes, pay attention to your whole body now. How do you feel overall? And if you notice some aches or pains or whatever came up, I want you to focus on those areas now and just take in a couple deep breaths, focusing that breath in those areas, nourishing it with this beautiful oxygen. Send it some loving from yourself. Now I want you to tell those areas, thank you, body, for your awareness, for making me aware of the things that I need to address today. I will take care of you and address you with ease and joy. Now take a couple deep breaths again as you slowly come back, reground yourself, become present. And again, welcome everyone. So today, make sure to take some notes. Like I said, the second half of the hour when we go into private Zoom, we will be asking more about, for those who have participated all 3 days or even just today, those little special notes you took today about your body. Where are the aches and pains? What came up? What did you see as we did our scan? Take those notes, keep them ready, because we will be talking and discussing those. And what I want to do now is just take the time of introducing my husband. My husband and I went to the same school where we got a special advanced training in neuromuscular therapy. The difference is that I graduated before he did. So we never met at school. We went to the same school, but we did not meet at school. I think I just saw him one time passing by, taking a tour, but there was no discussion or introduction. And as I graduated, I continued on growing my business for myself. And at that, it's funny how destiny plays a hand in your life. So I live here in my home with my sister and my daughter, and I was renting out the room at the time. And I was only seeking a female renter because we're mostly females here. And my school liaison called and said, I have a young man looking for a room. I know you're only seeking female, but can you please give him an opportunity? He's a responsible person and I could vouch for him. So I'm like, okay, let me give it a try. So I ended up renting the room to my husband. And at that time, I did not have any time. I was in the middle of a marriage going wrong. It was not a good time for me. And in that time, I realized it was time to let go of my ex-husband because things were just not great. And it wasn't because of JB. I had already made that realization before he even moved in. I just was not confronting it. And the only reason I decided to confront it is because when JB moved in, he was really excited to learn, to know more about my skills and my training, my background in therapy, the massage therapy, and how I worked with energy and how I that my empath ways of dealing with clients. And at that time, my sister was diagnosed with cancer, ovarian cancer. So for me, it was not only going through a troubled marriage, but now also having to deal with my sister in her journey. So that's when I asked JB for help. I said, if I'm going to do this journey with my sister, I need help. I can't do it alone. So we started working together and got through the divorce. And as we began working together on my sister, a journey that we thought was going to be long and hard because it turned out that she was stage 3 ovarian cancer. She needed aggressive chemo if she was going to fight this. And we didn't know for how long. But thankfully, with ease and joy, we were able to do it in 4 months. but before it was September, and on Christmas Eve, before the new year, 2 years ago, we got the good news that her numbers were so low that she could be considered cancer-free. And then after that, she got that note in June that she was cancer-free and has been cancer-free since then. And that's when we knew there was something special between us. And with time, it flourished into a relationship which then flourished into marriage. And here we are. But as beautiful as that story sounds, we all have trauma. We all have something in the background kind of haunting us sometimes. And now my husband will be sharing his journey on those little issues that came up that we had to deal with too.
Thank you, my wonderful soulmates. And it's probably,
Oops, I'm gonna stop sharing. So then that way we could put it on gallery view. There we go. There we go.
yes, thank you so much for that.
Mhm.
That we're here today in the sense of showing you us putting in the work. And first you want to use the word work or healing. It was a heck of a journey even to get to this point where we're sharing our story, where we're sharing, gathering sources, the other healers together to really create this healer roundtable and this opportunity to understand trauma more. And do I start at the end or the beginning? And either which way, there's always a starting point. One of my earliest recollections at this time from the work we've done is that there's something extremely traumatic, like some people may experience there. For me, there's a moment that happened to me around 2 or 3 that has been suppressed, that all I could do is I have this knowing, but no recollection of the memory exactly what was done to me as a child. And so much that most of my childhood is blank. Yeah, I see the photos that my mother had kept from those memories, but I can't really recall most of the emotion. Years later, another traumatic memory that came up when I was 11 years old, one of the few times that my biological father was physically abusive, but he was extremely emotionally and verbal, which I'll share in a moment. And a conversation I had with my mother was, when you grow up, I want you to either be a soldier, a doctor, or a priest. Like any other kid, you're curious and it's like, why? The infamous question, why? As a doctor, you can help heal hearts. As a priest, you can help those find hope who lost faith. And as a soldier, you could be strong and protect the innocent no matter what. And what we're going through, we needed a combination of all 3. But not knowing till then, looking back then, I thought I only had a choice and I had to choose one of them. And what we were going through, I felt like I needed to go on the journey of being a soldier. And that choice was made one day. Like I said, one of the few times he was ever physically abusive, that I cried myself to sleep, is like, I'm going to grow up and be a soldier so I could be strong to protect my brothers and my mom. Fast forward to my experience to the military. And of course, along the lines, there are many other traumas that built up onto that. There was a moment when my first mission was at night. I was a driver, part of a team of security. Within 5-10 minutes driving in the road, dark, asking my supervisor, is that a rocket? And he said, yep. Shouldn't we call it in? Nope. And at that moment, I just accepted death. If it was my time to go, I go. If not, keep me safe. Fast forward, transition of me getting out of the military. All right, I got injured in the sense of fractured sternum, so I could not elevate my fitness to continue that career in the military. Looking back at it, it was a blessing for me to be here today. And a lot of people kept on referring to as like continue as a kid, giving massages to friends and family, not thinking of it, not knowing it was massage. I just know I could touch people and they felt better, especially the way I was guided and almost saw this weird kind of color or discomfort in their bodies. So I went to educate myself in massage school right getting out of the military. At that point, I had $25,000 in the bank, zero debt, but for some reason, based on my traumas of the past, within a few months, I went from that abundance of 25,000 in the bank, zero debt, free to start my new life, to $60,000 in debt from school and other trying to help family and friends or what the case may be. And I found myself in that moment, another moment where I had a pistol in my mouth. And it was that taste of the cleaning solution, because I'm very thorough cleaning my weapons, because that was one of my jobs in the military. I was like, oh my God, this tastes horrible. Why would I do this? Why would anyone do this? Remember, if it was my time to go, I'll go. The fact that I'm still safe, there's something bigger than me, so I can move on. Fast forward back to 2012, I finally make the commitment. I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna commit to this weekend training. And I started my journey of personal development and healing development to expand myself outside of massage. Due to many of those traumas, I was stuck in a cycle, reliving the past, which made it me struggling to provide for myself, to provide for my family, because that's what I was used to. When I was in the military, it was so abundant. I had a place to stay, I had food to eat, that I was giving most of my income to support my mother and my brothers so they could get through whatever they were going through. But to have that switch, this shift, and me feeling like a failure because wasn't able to provide the same support that I did before, the shame, the guilt started coming up, all the different traumas. Am I not worthy enough? Am I not good enough to be in that position to support him again? What's going on? And even with all the tools and techniques I was learning from 2012, even to today, until recently, before meeting my soulmate, my wife, I was doing all the tools. I was learning just from here, my mind. And most people say they're grateful for the services and the healings I've done, but there's some kind of disconnect. And I could not comprehend it because since I was a childhood, due to that moment when I was 3 or 4, I've started building an addiction to avoid emotion. I didn't know that until recently when I honestly admitted that I have an addiction to avoid emotion, which then I had a hard time addressing those traumas or even acknowledging that there were traumas. Especially, I could resort to, I was trained in the military, forget it. There's no, space or time for emotion. No, if you like to heal, at least the way I healed, my journey is I had to face what some people call the skeleton in the closet, but I had to face those boxes where I suppress, or those closets where I suppress my traumatic, and there were intense emotions. Like even now, as we're doing the work with me and my wife, I start watching movies and I've noticed my growth of understanding my trauma and then like applying the healing process we have shared the last couple of days, which we'll share again in a moment. I started crying and started feeling like emotions that I didn't recognize when I'm watching a movie or listening to a song. So I know on my journey, I am making those progress to go beyond understanding trauma. Again, step 1, we have a paper and pen, the 4 steps that we use for healing. Step 1 is awareness. Step 2, interview. Step 3, forgiveness. And step 4, integration. And you'll hear us repeat this session or these steps, how we apply it. And even though I knew the steps, and even though I knew the different techniques for awareness, I knew a different technique to interview, which is asking questions. I knew a technique for forgiveness. For some reason, when I was blocked, suppressing that emotion, even though I was going through the process, I wasn't really reaping the rewards of feeling fulfilled, feeling loved, feeling worthy, feeling acknowledged, feeling heard, feeling any aspect of importance to anyone else. And even to this day, again, we share these tools because we apply them. I apply them on a daily basis. There's still moments where I could drive multiple times and say on the same freeway or street, and it happens to be trash on the side of the road. I'll probably pass it one time and be fine. Pass it again. Next moment, I'm taken back to one of those moments when I was in Iraq, bypassing a bomb. I'm looking for a wire. I'm looking for someone with a phone that could trigger it. I'm looking for a pressure pad. Sometimes I almost swerve into the other lanes, or I try to hide behind another vehicle so they could take the blast. I could feel the weight of the armor on me that I wore then, the helmet, the goggles, some of the attachments, my weapon. Find myself looking for my weapon. Where's my weapon? And as I do these many different healing tools, which have been presented on my journey, I'm slowly learning, not slowly, it took me slowly because that's the capacity for my addiction to suppress and not really acknowledge my emotion. It was slow for me, my journey, for me to start taking off my helmet, my body armor, putting down my weapon, and to really not just see and experience mentally my life, but for me emotionally. And even though it may not look like it, I weigh around 230, and this shirt was actually feel like I was snugging into the shirt 230. I have not lost a single pound. I've been averaging about 230. But the fact of the work I've been doing for the last year, and this shirt's not stretched out. There's a weird phenomenon when doing the emotional work that you shed an energetic weight. It might not perceive physically at the moment, and that's okay. I've learned to accept it for me, that it's okay that I'm not completely ripped from the workout I'm doing daily or for the more conscious eating habits I've decided to put into my body. But I'm okay that I'm making progress on the path that I'm doing now. And I'm so glad, and I'm still learning at times because the way I was trained, you gotta go full on, it's just all in or nothing, to learn to kind of put in a throttle in my life. For those who cross my path that wanna learn a technique or tool that's helping me heal, to acknowledge that they're going at a different pace and that they will choose to use the tool to understand their trauma, to apply the 4 steps to heal so that they continue growing or experiencing life. Not from the head, not from your eyes, but from your heart. And we believe in the Trinity philosophy of the mental, emotional, and physical.
So I'm going to ask my husband some questions because when I met him, he did start sharing about his childhood traumas. And it was quite interesting, childhood traumas, military traumas, everything and anything. But it was interesting hearing him and seeing him talk about it. It was almost like he would talk about it, but then laugh about it. And almost like in a way of, oh, but I'm fine. I'm great. Everything's good. And I was looking at him and I'm like, are you sure about that? Like it was it's an experience, and especially as our relationship started, evolving, hearing him every night, moaning, fighting, struggling for his life in his dreams. He dreams about being in the war or something going on every night. And it's been an interesting journey with him experiencing that. Just kind of waking up, and what I do is I'll slowly place my hand on his hand and just kind of send him that energy like you're in a safe space. And it takes him a while to calm. It wasn't like that first. At first, the minute I would touch him, he would jump. He would like jump and wake up. And I would have to tell him, "You're okay." But slowly, it's been getting less. It's more of a moaning now. Like you could hear him moaning and struggling. But the minute I touch him, of how many times we've been repeating this process, it's been getting better slowly. And with his addiction to not feeling emotions, the reason he says that is because, like I said, he would talk about these events and then almost like in a sadistical way, laugh about it. And I was like, what is that really about? Why do you laugh? And there was another thing he would do, like if he saw something beautiful, like say we would be driving to a session or just driving to the grocery store, and if there was something beautiful, if there was a beautiful couple in the corner, caressing each other, he would make it look ugly in a second. And I said, why do you do that? Why is the purpose to make something beautiful ugly? And it was a coping mechanism of him trying to make sure not to feel that. It's easier to push and push things away than to feel them. The suppressing emotions. It is easier, but in the long run, it builds up. It starts building up in your body. And then that's when we talk about diseases and illnesses and pains and chronic pain coming up, because your body could only handle so much. It's made to help you heal, to help you function. Your body is made for many purposes. But one thing I have found with experience and through our work, it is not made to hold on to things. Your body will find a way, whether it's when we eat, what do? We defecate. We push out whatever our body does not need from the nutritions we've eaten. When we drink fluids, what does our body do? It only takes in what it wants, what it needs, and then pushes the rest out. Our lymphatic system, what does it do? The water that our body does not need, we sweat it out through our armpits, through our groin area, where the lymph system is located, to pump. Our bodies are made to move, to release. Our heart is pumping to release blood throughout our system. So our bodies are made to function and circulate and take in and push out what it needs and it doesn't need. So when we hold on to these things and we hold and hold and hold, our body will find a way to push it out because it's not made for that. And I think that's one of the understandings that my husband came to a realization He really thought he was letting things go, but he was holding on to all of that. And you could see it. He was wearing it, like the way he was talking about his uniform, the weight of the helmet, the weight of his armor, the weight. He was wearing it. And what's interesting is he saw it so like exterior. Oh, it's just on me. It's not in me. It's on me. I could take it off anytime. But would you say, did you take it off or were you constantly wearing it?
Constantly wearing it because I didn't know at that time, so recently, that my love or my acknowledgement of emotions is a much more effective, healthy boundary or barrier than to hold on to those old memories, traumatic memories, because it just kind of builds up, snowball effect.
Mm. Yeah, so you know, it's easy. I think also it was easy for him finding a way to deal with it by trying to help so many others. I think, and that I started jokingly calling him, stop getting into your Jesus mode, because I noticed that that was another addiction that he had formed where he thought by helping others, it would help him. Hence, him helping his mom and his brothers and feeling a failure because he couldn't help them no more. So he would find ways to help them and to help others. But what was interesting when I interviewed his family and talked to them, they really felt abandoned by him because he was so focused on trying to help everybody that his own family felt abandoned. He was never around. He was always trying to help someone else. He was always everywhere but here. And he didn't see it that way. He really thought he was helping all these people. And it was interesting when he realized, what did you realize when I made you aware of that, the Jesus mode addiction?
What I came to realize was similar to the armor, the traumas, the programming that ingrained to me mentally, lack of emotionally, really kept any and every almost relationship I ever had superficial. In which I thought the more I did, the deeper I got to know them. Whether it's hearing someone, friend, or what I thought was a friend, open their heart and whatever the challenges were, which then I, at the time, thought they were asking for help. So I gave them suggestions. And of course, not seeing that, it's like, okay, so it's my turn then to what I thought was opening up my heart and share my challenges. And it was like, oh, I don't have time. Oh, they cut me off, something I said. And for me, I didn't believe I was imposing my views of relationship or my views of religion or views of some kind of topic of discussion at that time. I thought I was just venting and opening up and maybe thinking that they were my friend, they would kind of give me some insight of why was I still stuck or bearing this burden, I guess, looking back at it now. And of course, again, like I mentioned a moment ago, they'll just cut me off, sometimes without an explanation. And just like what she said, it was challenging to even be direct, always almost like beating around the bush in the sense of answering questions when it came to my own emotion. and I guess the way I felt abandoned and having to have this behaviors or habits from the traumas I've dealt with, I was projecting that onto not just myself, my family. I guess feeling abandoned, feeling not connected. Like one of the traumas that come up at this moment, I was recalling as a kid, for some reason, even though my biological father was making 40 to 60,000 in the late 80s, early 90s, which is a lot for that time, we would move every 3 months. Lucky, maybe 4 months. But for whatever reason, lack of responsibility, I don't know. I was just a child to kind of be conscious of what I was doing. But we had to move sometimes in the middle of the night. And that trauma or the mental, emotional programming for that moment carried into my relationships. Every girlfriend or intimate relationship or friendship would not last beyond 3 months. What was the point? As I was doing this work that I would share with you, the healing process, really interviewing why was I repeating that process? What was the point of having a relationship if I'm going to move in 3 months? If I'm going to have to find another place to live with my life, new people I got to meet.
And also your eating habits. The trauma of, he did tell me that some days you guys didn't even know if you had enough to eat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, living many times. But then as a kid, I was able to generate money, whether collecting coins from the streets, just everywhere we walked, because my mother at the time didn't really have a vehicle to drive. So whether it was to or from school, I would just start collecting change randomly in the playground, on the streets. And I was like happy I was able to contribute that to what we could afford at the time. It was like a pizza, 10, 15 bucks, and then a couple dollars for soda. Not knowing whether it's healthy or not, it was just what my mother knew at the time, what we could afford, what was in our environment physically. And then sometimes I'll save up so much where we have $100. It's like, okay, we're good for a little while. And it just disappear. And sometimes, occasionally, my mom will give me the justification that I let my grandmother borrow it from my father's side, or let my father borrowed it. It's like zero recollection. Like even now, looking back, I still have zero recollection. I would at least have a knowing. The more we practice the technique of healing and being aware of then, but not really attached to that, I would zero knowing, which then develop a trauma that am I even worthy of money? And I love the way my wife puts it. Would you share the analogy about money and love?
Yes. So we have heard money is energy, love is energy, emotions are energy. They flow, they come unexpected, unannounced. And so a lot of people view money as not so great. And that's because based on emotions and experiences of what has we have all gone through. But if you start changing your mindset in viewing money as energy exactly the same as love, I had said before, one time someone had said, oh, guess what? I got $200. I don't deserve all that money because it was just something that out of the blue came into their hands. And I said, what did you say? Oh, I don't deserve that much money. It's a lot of money. This was way back, not too recently. And I said, why would you say it that way? I'm gonna replace the word money with love and repeat what you just said. Does it make any sense? And she repeated it. I don't deserve all this love. And she kind of hesitated and stopped and realized what she was just saying. And I said, money is energy just like love is. So the way you speak, and this is something we've learned with Don Miguel, the four agreements, be impeccable with your words. The words you say really have an impact even on yourself, the words you say onto yourself. And so it really changes your mindset, and I recently, just to make the story recently, I was actually working on a client and we were talking about this. I was telling her that story because, she was talking about that, how, she's very abundant. That she doesn't struggle in her, she's very lucky. And she was saying that my husband and I are very lucky. We live in abundance, but oh my goodness, it's so hard to live here. Um, always working hard. We shouldn't have to work this hard just to be able to have this money. And I said, that's why it feels that way, because that's how you view it. If you view working hard just to be able to have money, and that's the energy and the mindset you have behind it, well, guess what? It will be hard and it will be a struggle. How about let's change the mindset where it's easy? We live in abundance and I don't have to work so hard because I love doing and I asked her, do you love what you do? Yes. Then view it that way differently. View your money and how you earn it with ease and joy, and change that mindset of, oh, it's so hard. Because feel how your body feels when you say it's so hard. Your body becomes hard. Your body's in pain. Now say it differently. It's fun. What we do, we're able to earn, we're able to be abundant in money. And when she started thinking of it that way and changing her mindset, and I told her about the story about how that person said, oh, I don't deserve, all this money, changing it to, I don't deserve all this love. She was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I didn't think about it that way. And that day, just by having that conversation and sharing that energy, that healing energy, I only had 3 clients that day. And usually they'll tip me between $15 to $20. That's usual. That's the average. But I'm always, whenever I go to work, I always say, I'm happy at what I do. I love what I do. And I go to work excited and I leave excited, coming home to share stories with my husband. And that day I was overjoyed because I got to experience, I got what I preached about, I got to experience. I only had 3 clients that day, and I came home with $135 tip total, which is very rare. Like I said, average is a different number. But the fact that I'm able to see it differently and change my mindset, the trauma of, will I make enough? Will I make enough to pay the bills? How am I going to do it this month? Instead of me kind of like constantly throwing those questions, that energy out there, the trauma, like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay for that? How I'm going to, we tend to go into this vicious cycle of, how am I going to do this? How am I going to, I don't know if I could function. What's going to happen to me? Try to change that mindset, because in a way we relive trauma every day by doing that too. We make money into trauma. We make our life into trauma.
Whether it's our physical health, whether it's our relationships. And even on this journey for the last, since 2012, when I really I'm going to change my life and I'm going to explore this technique or this training, or this is going to be my path. Again, like I mentioned, most of the time I was just like my wife said, from the throat, from the mouth, or my head out, never from my heart. Even though I was doing the work for myself, I wasn't really doing that emotion, coming from an emotional place. which then translated, I saw my brother succeed. They were getting married. They were starting a family. They were buying their first house, and now one of them is buying their second house. Until, this recently past year is really when I was doing the digging, the work to recognize trauma is not just physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse. It is from one of those three categories. But finding the balance in all three for yourself, for myself, allow me to be happy the fact that I have this wonderful soulmate to call my wife, to go through life with. And it's kind of fascinating. Again, being in denial. I was in denial when we first started working with each other. People will come up to us, people that are gifted, people that have trusted their intuition and say, when I see you guys together, I only see this one aura, this one ball of energy. I don't see like two separate souls. And of course, me not acknowledging because of the trauma of programs I've yet to heal and address at that time, I was like in denial. I was like, okay, sure. No, we're just working. And that's it. And again, even to kind of give an example of something recently, and I was going to grab lunch for my stepdaughter. And on the way back, I was putting out this energy, which somehow generated a metal spike to stab the tire. It's like I was hearing this clicking. So I got home, stepped out, look, it's like, oh gosh. All right, rather than spiraling out like my old behavior from the trauma about just giving up and oh well, I was immediately on the phone trying to find a tire shop. I handed over the food and I told my wife, we got a spike in the tire. I don't know how we're gonna go address this and deal with our client. Again, no one's perfect. Immediately her thought at that time was, all right, let me cancel. I was like, no, let me call the tire shop. I'll be back. I'll figure it out. Initially, the tire shop that I got the tires from wasn't open. Call up another one. They happened to be open. Got there in time. They told me I had to replace this tire. They didn't have it in stock. I'll get it tomorrow. It was about almost $300 or something like that. It's like, great. Do I follow that path of the traumatic of giving up? Or do I open my mind, open my heart, and trust my intuition, trust the balance that for some miraculous reason, this company, tire shop, decided, let us help you put on your spare tire. We'll recommend it to drive slowly if you were to drive today. But our tires are under warranty, so I'll check with the tire shop tomorrow. So we were able to serve our clients. I was able to work through that trauma of giving up and, oh, well, whether it's losing finances or losing that relationship with that client or losing to that point of view at that moment with my wife, we were putting into practice. And it's not one and done. It's a constant, almost like gardening, you're putting energy into your garden. Once you expand your mind, there's no pulling just out the weed and letting that place be. You have to work from an energetic, emotional capacity to plant something that brings you that inner love, joy, whatever emotion you want to harvest in your life. The more you expand your mental capacity or your mindset, your emotional set will match that. And then kind of show into a physical aspect. And to us, we like to use the body like a map. And it shows us, and it's up to you to develop the ledger. For me, certain aches and pains represent specifically that. So when it comes for us to work on a client, and I feel that in my body, as a client allows us and trusts us to connect, whatever comes up, we'll ask questions. And lo and behold, I'm not surprised that the trauma is similar to what my view of my body pain. And then when they address it through the 4 steps, awareness, the interview, forgiveness, integration, the discomfort, pain, or limitation of the rotation or the stress in that body dissipates. Mm-hmm. There's no one way to address trauma. And that's why we do our best to bring other speakers to share their story and their techniques and tools and philosophies to help others heal, because that might be more aligned to you.
But what is true within all that we network with and we work with, what is true is the ways to start that journey again is by awareness, breaking it down, becoming aware of it. And like I said, you could either become aware of it and put it in a box because it's too much, it's too overwhelming, and put that healthy boundary, but continue working on yourself. Like my husband was talking about, viewing yourself as that garden that needs to be worked on a daily basis. And so that awareness helps you to break it down in a way that you can handle it, where you can work through it. And like I said, it takes time. It's on your time, your journey, your time. Interview it. Getting those breakthroughs, those aha moments that we were talking about, seeing it in a different mindset. Really try to talk to your inner child. Your inner child has so many answers to your question. If you take time just to soothe and talk to your inner child, you will be amazed of all the answers you get from that little mini you. You know, when you were a child, it was so, yes, there was emotions and you would get upset and all that, but we were never holding on to it. If you could all remember and recall as a child, something would upset you and you would get so mad, and then the next minute you were back to playing and having fun and laughing. It was so easy then to move on. Why is it so much? Why did we make it so much harder as an adult? And whenever I interview my inner child, it's like, why are you making it so hard? Just play. Let's go play. Let's have fun. My inner child doesn't want to dwell on the problem. My inner child wants to be free and play and imagine and live in that world. When I was a little girl, that I would, play with my dollhouse and I would spend hours just imagining that now my life was this way, my life was that way, and I had a baby and I had this, and I would play house. And we never played, oh my God, my life is so horrible, and how am I going to pay this rent, and how am I going to deal with my husband? And we never played that way. If you really go back to your child, it was this beautiful world of rainbows and unicorns, and you could fly. There was no limits. There was no impossibles. Really go back to that inner child and interview it, because they hold all the answers and they give you the breakthroughs to see it differently, a different perspective. Children give a very honest perspective to situations. And forgiveness, forgiving yourself. That's what we talked about yesterday. Don't worry about forgiving others. Forgive yourself for holding on to those things, bearing that armor. Forgive yourself for doing that. Like I said, we're all going to make mistakes. The choices we make in life, don't be fearful for them. Don't put that fear energy in it. We will make mistakes and it's okay, because we learn from those mistakes. And also in the process, forgive yourself. Oops, shouldn't have done that. It's okay. That gives you so much awakening to whatever process or the next step to pursue. And then last is integration. Finding that self-love, like I said, it's never ending. Everything we go throughout our life, whether it's traumatic, whether it's joy, whether it's sadness, happiness, anger, bliss, everything we go through is integrated within our body to help us function, to find that self-love, to find that purpose of living. Our purpose in life is to live. It's not the title you hold. It's not my title. It's how I live it. That's the purpose in life. How do you live your life? And with that, I just want to end it with these numbers again. These numbers are on our Facebook page. They are on our meetup and the invites and the events page. I posted the pictures there. If you need any kind of help now, ASAP, here's 4 good numbers to call to. Your community also has special resources if you need any help right now. And also, like I said, if you're connected through our Facebook page, we have all of our guest speakers information under the units tab, that if you resonated with one of those guest speakers, that you felt that connection where you feel safe, where you feel like you could get breakthroughs with that person, reach out to them, reach out to us. You know, we are here to serve. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end the Facebook Live to continue with our private Zoom session.
All right, thank you all for joining us on Facebook. So remember to stay healthy and live intentionally.